right, guys, let's back up. Dustin Poirier goes on Teddy Atlas's program and somehow drops a great nugget that he has agreed to fight Nate Diaz on short notice. Now, I'm giving you those two clues because that's all that we have. We have to do the work from there. What does that mean? How did this come about? All right. That fight is awesome. That fight is going to work any way you want to do it. And I think that Poirier deserves a ton of credit. It is very hard when you fall off a horse to get back on. We all know that that's the rule and that's what you need to do, but it's hard to do. It's much easier to say it than to actually do it. Poirier agreed to fight Nate Diaz, at least on social media, 4 days after he had his heart broken and his title taken away. So Poirier is showing us who he is as a person. He is revealing his character to the world. He is being tested not only physically but mentally, and he is passing with flying colors. There's a piece of that fight that's tough, though, which is Nate Diaz has told the world, I have one left, and I want to get it done. There's something else in life that I have an interest in. And I share that because if this were Nate Diaz's last weigh-in, could you imagine? If this were Nate Diaz's last walk, if this were Nate Diaz's last competition in the UFC, that you'd feel something. That's tough. Right, I mean, Nate Diaz and UFC, these go together. Diaz, MMA, these things go together. That would be tough stuff. We would never miss that for all the tea in China. The other side of it is, what is this about and what happens? And there's certain things that you have to do in a night. You are trying to win, but there's other things you have to do. So what would Nate Diaz have to do? Nate Diaz, the rumor, I have no inside information, but of boxing Jake Paul. That's just a rumor that I believe. I believe that that's got an interest and there's a conversation and he would like to have it, and contractually he cannot even sit down and hear anybody out. That's just what I believe. Nobody's disputed that. We'll operate on that assumption. Okay, so what does Nate need to do? Does he have to beat Poirier? That's certainly going to be his plan, but does he have to do it? Does he have to look good with Poirier? Does he have to fight Poirier differently? Does he have to fight him standing up, showing the lefts and the right hands, showing these boxing skills? I don't know. I'm asking you guys. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they go hand in hand. I think that has always been a miss by MMA fighters from Jump Street, thinking that they have to go out in MMA fights and do boxing as a way to be believable and credible to the boxing world. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. I think you just have to go out and compete mano a mano and get your hand raised. If you can't do that, go out and compete and show heart and show grit and show toughness. But you see what I'm saying here, guys? What I'm saying is if an athlete doesn't believe, if an athlete doesn't agree, if an athlete thinks he has to go out and do certain things in an MMA fight to be compelled to a totally different sport, tough. He's in a tough spot. One of my favorite expressions, boxing announcer said this. I was a little kid. I heard it and I've taken it with me, which is fighters always want to look good. But here's the deal. Look good next time. Tonight, just win. When next time comes, I'm going to look good next time. Tonight, I'm going to just win. And there is a real relevance to that. And there's all sorts of different wins, particularly when you're dealing with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz had wins in his fight with Leon. The high spot of the night went to him. The loudest reaction from the crowd due to the highest spot of the night went to Nate. And Nate had wins, and Nate has an ability to get wins that aren't just the victory of the final decision within the contest. But I don't want, first off, that's going to hurt me. If that is Nate's last time weighing in, a Nate Diaz weigh-ins is so special. That crowd that comes out, that reception that they give him to just walk onto a stage and get onto a scale, there is nobody that can touch a Nate Diaz weigh-in. The walkout for Nate Diaz, when they pop his face on the screen, that music's playing and he leaves the locker room, there is an energy. You will never forget it if you see it live. He is special. Nate Diaz is special. And if that's his last one, boy, that's going to be tough stuff. And then what's on the line for Poirier? First off, what weight class are these boys going to fight at? Nate fights at 55, but Nate fights at 70. As of late, I don't even know that Nate's talking about going back down to 55, but that is an interesting piece of the story. because that would mean that Poirier is going to go fight at 170 pounds. Very interesting, because Poirier alluded and foreshadowed that he may become a 170 pounder after he gets done with the contest with Charles Oliveira. The contest with Charles Oliveira is done, and now it looks as though Poirier is going up to 170 pounds. Is he planning to stay there? I mean, 170 gets shaken from the roots on up if you insert Dustin Poirier into it. And if Dustin Poirier's biggest opportunity is Nate, who he wants to fight, has wanted to fight for years, and the weight class is 170, all of a sudden he's a 170 pounder. Simple as that. What makes the difference between a 70 pounder and a 55 pounder? One of them fights at 170, right? It's as simple as that. If he goes on, that's what I would predict. I don't think Nate's cutting back down to 55. Do you guys? No. Nate's a big guy. He's been fighting at 70. If he's going to fight Poirier, Poirier's going to have to come up to 170. And then are there special rules put on the match? Nate versus Leon, by example, was a mega fight. And out of nowhere, they came in and go, okay, it's not a title fight and it's not a main event, but you're going 5 rounds anyway. All right, great. More Nate. Everybody wins. But it's an interesting piece. Is Poirier now a 70 pounder? Very interesting piece. Poirier looks as though he's getting back on that horse and he's going to try to make that run one more time. Maybe he's going to do it at 170. But his marching orders and his goals still appear to be pretty clear to us. What are Nate's goals? What does Nate have to do? I overheard a conversation one time. Dana White and Cain Velasquez. I just happened to be within ear's distance. I overheard it. MGM Grand, co-main event, Daniel Cormier versus Pat Cummins. Daniel Cormier was a top guy in the world in 2 different divisions, getting ready to take on Jon Jones for a world championship. His opponent, I believe, was to be Rashad Evans, and Rashad pulled out. Daniel doesn't have a dance partner. Nobody wants to fight Daniel Cormier. So Pat Cummins, who was not even in the UFC, raised his hand and said, I do, and I'm actually familiar with him. We used to train together. And you can go ask Daniel, I'm going to be a tough night out. And that's exactly what happened, and that fight got put together. But all of a sudden, Daniel Cormier, who's getting ready to go fight Jon Jones for a world championship, has got to deal with somebody who's never been on TV before. It's a very tough spot. And when that fight ended, Daniel won. And I just heard Dana say to Cain. Dana walked over to Cain, and Dana said, he did what he needed to do tonight. Cain said nothing back. Dana finished the thought and said, he looked good. All he needed to do tonight was look good. And he did. Daniel took on an unknown with no ranking. Next fight for the world championship. Sometimes you just got to look good. Interesting spot, fun match, lot riding on it. But it's not the same weight as other contests where you have 2 potential contenders that are working their way up. So I'm asking ahead of time, do you agree with me that the date being looked at for that fight is February in Houston, Adesanya versus Whitaker? Do you agree with me that a win for a guy trying to fulfill a contract versus a guy trying to climb the ladder in a new weight class is not the same thing? And if you do agree with that, then what does victory for each guy look like?